Death Valley Days.
The hardy people who shaped the West brought with them only the barest essentials. A wagon, a plow, a few tools, pots and pans. Even their religion was stripped clean of all that seemed pretentious and unnecessary. Under that sky, across those plains and deserts and mountains, they relied on a direct, uncluttered kind of faith. Religion was a day-to-day affair, and God was an immediate being, a ready ally when the Indians attacked, a not-too-distant neighbor you could talk over your troubles with, a father responsible for all that was bright and tragic, from the Mississippi River to the California coast. And nowhere on the countless pages of Western history was there anyone to whom God was more real and familiar than the woman we shall meet tonight in the startling story of Canary Harris versus the Almighty.
I never seen lovelier beans than you got this year, Canary. They're just sweet as sugar.
It's all that nice rain we had last month.
You ought to put some up and enter them at the county fair over to New Hope. Delbert and I are driving over there tomorrow. Now, why don't you go with us?
Oh, thanks, Lucy. I promised Sister Fanny I'd help her with the Dart and Heart quilt.
Oh, land sakes, Canary, you're always so busy doing for your neighbors. You ought to take time to enjoy yourself. Ever since George has been gone, you don't go nowheres.
Well, it's my Christian duty to help where I'm needed. And besides, Lucy, that fair at New Hope ain't my idea of real pleasure, you know. Gawking at other folks' pickles and crocheted pillow slips. Nah.
Well, there's horse racing in the afternoon and theatricals at night.
Can't abide horse racing, and I had my fill of theatricals when George was alive.
Well, it don't do you no good to sit here and brood about George being gone.
I don't brood. The Almighty saw fit to take him away, and there's no use arguing when the Lord makes up his mind.
And there's no use arguing with you, neither. I never seen a stubborner woman. Well, thanks for the beans, Canary.
Anytime, Lucy.
Maybe you'll change your mind about the fair.
I won't change my mind.
I just think you ought to get out a little, Canary. You're never going to get no excitement sitting there on your front porch. Land sakes!
Lord Almighty, Lucy, it's raining rocks.
I never will understand small-town customs. Fire, flood, a funeral, any disaster is an excuse to bring out the best food in the house.
I notice you're always the first one there, Jason Spoonover, sporting your city airs.
Well, a good lawyer has to know what's going on. When are you going to have me over for dinner?
Right after church on Sunday.
Now, Canary, you know that I don't clutter my life with church going and Bible pounding.
And I don't clutter mine with heathen unbelievers.
Oh, I tell you, Reverend, it was like a great avalanche right from the sky. And the porch fell in, and Canary pretty near with it.
Now, calm down. The porch must have been weak. A sudden gust of wind could have collapsed it.
Weak? My front porch? George put that together with his own two hands, and he never built nothing that wouldn't outlast him. And now look at it. Not a stick big enough to train a pea vine on. What am I going to do for a porch?
Canary, here's your culprit. Yeah, Lucy was right. Was an avalanche. Meteorites.
What?
Well, I'll be. I saw some of these in a museum in Baltimore. It's a meteorite. A shooting star, Canary.
Here, let me see that.
A whole shower of them. You're lucky you weren't killed.
Oh, the Almighty was looking out for you this morning, Sister Canary.
Reverend Farr, I do believe that you'd find an excuse to drag in the Almighty at an all-night party down at the Circus Saloon.
Do you mean this fell off on a star?
Something like that.
Smack onto my front porch?
Smack through your front porch, I'd say.
Why? Why did it fall on me?
An act of God, Canary, with apologies to Mr. Spoonover. An act of God, and a mighty rare one. This wouldn't happen again in 1,000 years.
An act of God.
Sure you won't have some of this lemon squash, Canary?
No, thank you, Jason. As I was saying, I've been thinking all night what to do about my porch. Now, do you remember the time them railroad surveyors came across Cyrus Brody's field and tromped his lucerne?
Mm-hmm.
And what did Cyrus do about that?
He sued the Union Pacific.
Exactly.
I don't understand what that has to do with your porch.
Well, simple, Jason. I'm going to sue the party responsible for the damages.
Now, that's impossible. No one's responsible for meteorites, unless it's the Almighty himself.
That's who I'm going to sue.
What?
Well, I've searched the bottom of my soul, and I don't see any reason for...
There doesn't have to be a reason. It just happened.
Oh, Reverend Farr said it at George's funeral. There is a reason for everything, even for George dropping over dead suddenly.
Reverend Farr, that pious old windbag.
Don't you speak disrespectful of the finest man in the whole territory. Except maybe Bishop Tuttle over at Fever Springs. Anyway, let me finish. I have searched and searched my soul, and this is one act of God I can't reason out. I think maybe, for the first time in history, he made a mistake.
You wouldn't sue God if an earthquake flattened your house or a tornado blew it into the next county, now would you?
No, well, a tornado wouldn't take just my house. And an earthquake would flatten the whole town. You see, what happened to me singled me out.
Oh, Canary, you're taking this too personally.
Well, no matter. What I came in to ask you was, will you take my case?
There's absolutely no precedent for this kind of thing. How do you go about suing somebody that doesn't exist?
Oh, I expected you'd say something like that. Tell me, Jason, does the Tower of London exist?
Of course it does.
Uh-huh. How do you know? Have you seen it?
No. But if I were to go to London, it'd be there.
And if you'd go to church once in a while, the Almighty'd be there. And you'd quit your eternal blaspheming.
All right, if you're so certain about this, why do you come to me at all? Why don't you go directly to God and ask him to raise up your porch overnight?
I thought of that. And he could do it, too. But I figure God likes things done right, through proper channels, so to speak. If he didn't, George and I would have set up housekeeping 30 years ago by ourselves, without waiting for the circuit rider to come around and marry us legal. No, God likes things organized, so I got to do it this way. And I need your help.
All right, supposing I agreed. How does one go about suing the Almighty?
Well, seeing as our lawyer and as your business, I think you'd know without me having to tell you. Who is his representative here in the town of Amity?
His representative?
And sakes, I don't know how you run your business without me. The Reverend Medford Farr is, that's who.
Of course. We can serve the papers on the Reverend Mr. Farr. Ooh, and wouldn't that raise some whoop-de-doodle in this God-fearing town?
Some folks won't approve, but I'm prepared for that. Besides, I'm in the right. They'll feel different when I get my porch back.
Oh, no. I wouldn't count on that too much.
Oh, you underestimate God's justice.
Now, Canary, I don't claim to know God as well as you do, but I am smart enough to know whether a case can win or not.
Would you like to make a little wager?
Oh, what kind of wager?
I'll bet you a year of my Sunday dinners against a year of you going to church regular.
You mean that if you lose this case, I get to eat dinner at your house every Sunday?
For a whole year. And if I win, you go to church 52 Sundays running.
Ah. You know, Canary, only a funeral can get me into church nowadays. But I feel that I can safely agree to this.
And you'll do the necessary lawyering to get me my porch back?
It will be a pleasure to try.
Canary Harris, have you gone clean out of your mind?
I don't think so. Why?
Well, it's all over town that you have gone and hired Jason Spoonover to sue the Lord.
Well, it's pretty early for the gossips to be out, ain't it?
Well, we knew something was afoot when Jason went over to the Reverend Farr's this morning. Now, Carrie Bangs said that the Reverend followed Jason clear to the gate. He was pale as a birch, his collar not even on yet, and he was arguing all the time. And then Carrie took a jar of jam into Sister Farr, and she got the whole story.
Didn't take her long to spread it around, did it?
Was something like this, Canary?
Lucy, I know what I'm doing. I studied on it good. And before I decided to sue, I knew I had to be sure this wasn't a punishment for some transgression of mine. Can you see why God would have this happen to me?
Well, I was thinking about that last night. Now, them meteorites, it was probably meant for Brother Tapscott down the road. Everybody knows that he keeps whiskey in his hairdressing bottle.
You see, I'm not being unreasonable. I'm not asking for $1,000 or a house with a tin roof. I just want my porch the way it was before.
I don't know. It just still seems awful wrong.
Lucy, I'm created in my Father's image, ain't I? What kind of a daughter would I be if I didn't hold my head up proud and fight for what I know was right?
Oh, Canary, I don't know how to argue with you. Just don't say I didn't warn you.
Oh,
Morning, Reverend Farr.
Morning.
Well, I reckon I'd best get home and do the wash. Yes, I'd best do the wash. Morning.
Bye, Lucy.
Canary, what is all this about?
Well, Reverend, what it boils down to is, me and God got a bone to pick about my porch.
Why, it's a disgrace. Referring to the Lord is the party of the second part. Oh, Canary, you cannot do that.
Well, that's just legal language, you see. I got Jason to write it all up legal.
But, Canary...
My bread's in the oven. I got an extra loaf for you to take home. Come on in.
But, Canary... Canary, you have got to accept an act of God without question.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Reverend. I didn't question the stroke that took George off, and I'll have no objections when my time comes. God gives us our bodies, and what we do with them is up to him. But that porch, you know, that was built by George's own two hands, and it won't grow again by itself like a lightning burned out forest. So I figure I got a right to register a complaint.
Oh, Canary, this is a very wicked thing you're doing.
Wicked? Wouldn't it be a lot worse if I sat back and cursed God like some folks do when misfortune comes?
No.
No, I'd rather face God in the open and give him a chance to make amends.
What do you expect me to do?
Well, now, Reverend, you're God's agent here in Amity. That's why I had Jason give you them papers. Now, I can't tell you what steps to take. I just know somehow you'll get through to the Lord. He'll listen to you. Oh, Jason, Reverend Farr, come in. Sit down, won't you?
Canary, I called a meeting of the elders tonight to consider your suit. And after a prayerful discussion of the matter, we feel inspired to find against you.
Against me?
However, as you're a widow woman and without a porch, as a result of a somewhat peculiar accident, we'd like you to know that as soon as the hay is up, we'll get together, the men of the town, and we'll have a porch raising.
Against me?
Now, Canary, I think that Reverend Farr and the brethren came up with a pretty fair solution, as fair as you could expect. You will be getting a new porch.
After the hay is up, it'll be September then. Rocking season is over. Porches are for summer, for snapping beans and setting with your neighbors.
We haven't the time for porch building now. You know that, Canary.
Nothing more useless than a porch in winter. Now's when I need my porch, not after the hay is up.
There's nothing you can do about it, Canary. The matter's been decided. You've lost your case.
Well, Reverend Farr, I thank you kindly for coming by this evening, and I know you've done all you can.
I'm sorry, Canary. I tried to talk you out of this. It was folly.
I can't understand it. I know I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Not according to Reverend Farr. You said so yourself. He's the Lord's own representative right here in Amity. We sure did stir them up pretty good, didn't we?
No wonder you think we lost. All you care about is raising a hullabaloo here in this town. It sticks in your craw that Reverend Farr is still the most respected man in town. You just stirred things about to make a fool of him. No wonder you want to quit.
Now, my motives have nothing whatsoever to do with it. You lost because you didn't have a case in the first place. As a matter of fact, you didn't even have a defendant. Now, the decision's been made. You've got to accept it.
Well, you and I have a wager on, and I ain't about to cry uncle. Maybe if I was younger when it happened, I would have. But my summers are getting fewer. Shorter, every one. I ain't about to waste one sitting in the kitchen. Jason, if we was in Denver now, in a regular court, would there be anything else we could do?
Well, the law provides that you can appeal if you're not satisfied with the verdict of the jury.
Appeal?
Yeah. Take the case to a higher authority.
Jason, how come I gotta do all your thinking for you?
Canary, what are you up to now?
I want you to write a letter. Use all them lawyer words, you know. Tell them everything that happened here. And send it to Fever Springs, Bishop Oliver R. Tuttle.
Tomatoes are ripe early this year.
It's been like this all week. Kids show up yelling, scaring the chickens, throwing tomatoes. People I knowed all my life are treating me like I was one of them gussied-up women down at the circus saloon.
Well, the talk in town is awful strong against you, Canary. Now, there's some people that would be willing to forgive you bringing up this whole thing in the first place, but when you insist on bringing the Bishop Tuttle into it, you're just asking for ripe tomatoes.
I know my rights. An appeal to Bishop Tuttle is perfectly honest, and it's legal.
Good morning, Reverend.
Canary, this has gone far enough. You have got to stop this whole business.
I've been telling her, Reverend Farr.
I think you better call it all off, Canary. There's a crowd down at the general store, and they're pretty upset.
Well, that ought to please you, Jason. You were hoping to start a commotion in this God-fearing town, weren't you?
We've made our point. Now, there's no use in carrying it any further.
You may have made your point, but I haven't made mine. I didn't start out to make trouble or to set people against me. I merely intended to remind the good Lord of his duty, to restore him a porch.
Canary, you are so busy trying to see God's duty in this that you're neglecting your own duty, which is to accept this catastrophe and to accept the judgment of the elders of Amity.
Let me write the bishop another letter and tell him that you've changed your mind, that you're withdrawing the suit.
That wouldn't be honest.
Canary. Huh? I tried, Reverend. Uh-oh. Here comes some of the flock.
Isaac, what's the meaning of this?
We've been talking this over, Reverend, and we want Canary Harris to stop making fools out of the whole town.
Now, just a moment, folks. You've all known Canary Harris for years. You know what kind of woman she is. A good Christian leader in our community. Now, what happened here came as a great shock to her and blinded her, temporarily, to her duty.
She only done what she thought was right.
Canary, can't we call on you to repent here and now?
You better admit you're defeated, Canary. This whole thing's gone too far.
I have too much faith in my father's justice for that. You can paint my whole house with tomatoes, and you can hide your children from me and turn your heads when I pass by. But until I hear from Bishop Tuttle himself, this suit ain't settled.
Hey, but it is Bishop Tuttle. Bishop, it's a great honor to have you visit Amity.
My dear Reverend, thank you.
Bishop, I believe I speak for the whole town when I tell you how deeply embarrassed we
My,
are.
oh, my. Is this all that's left of Sister Canary's porch?
Yes, Bishop, sir, it is.
Sister Canary, I received your most unusual appeal and came to settle on behalf of the Lord.
I tried to warn her, Bishop.
After lengthy, prayerful consideration of this whole rather peculiar matter, I find that your appeal is a just one. And therefore reverse the decision made by Reverend Farr and the elders of Amity. In other words, Sister Canary, by the grace and goodness of the Almighty, whose authority I hold as the minister of the gospel, you shall have your very own porch this afternoon. The wagon with the lumber should be right along.
Oh, thank you, Bishop. I knew he wouldn't let us down.
Well, in my younger days, I was quite a carpenter. Did you all come along to help? Good. Now run home, all of you, and get your tools. We shall need plenty of help if we're to have this finished by sundown. Reverend Farr, how about a hand with the lumber? And you, brother...
Brother Spoonover, Brother Jason Spoonover.
It's nice of you to come along and help in the Lord's work.
Well, Brother Jason, I'll see you in church on Sunday.
I guess I'm enlisted in the Lord's work whether I want it or not.
I'll go in and give thanks now and put a few pies in the oven for all the crowd. Oh, Jason.
Yes?
Could you get someone to make a sign for me? I want to put it on the porch. And it should read, the only porch in the whole territory built expressly by order of the Almighty. Huh?
Oh.
And so the case of Canary Harris versus the Almighty was settled. By that evening, the plaintiff was passing out homemade ice cream and strawberry pie from her new front porch. There were those who continued to say that Canary was dead wrong, that Bishop Tuttle was just showing compassion for a widow left porchless by a freak accident. But Canary herself always stepped lightly on that porch, believing it to be tangible proof of God's existence. Next week, another true story of the great American West.